for everybody. It ain't 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 for everybody. Yeah, many you call, but few get chosen. Matthew 22:14. My righteousness gonna exceed that of the Pharisees.
If you're looking for high quality clothing at affordable costs, check out PeculiarApparel.com. My name is Dawad.
And I'm Shayar, and we are the owners of Peculiar Apparel. All of our products are made with 100% natural fabrics, no mixed materials.
We have t-shirts for the man, woman, and child. These can be purchased with or without fringes.
Our women's line of t-shirts currently do not include fringes, but if that's something you desire, send us a DM at PeculiarApparel_ on Instagram, or send us an email at help@peculiarapparel.com.
So once again, that is PeculiarApparel.com.
Peculiar Apparel for peculiar people.
Shalom. Shalom, Mark.
Hey, Shalom.
Shalom, family. Hope everybody had a pretty good day today, man. So, just want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, and we do so by Shem, Yahweh Shai. That's in the name of His only begotten Son, whose name is Yahweh Shai, who most people know as Jesus Christ. So the title for today is King David Will Not Sit on the Throne as the Promised Messiah. And some of y'all may be familiar with the doctrine, some of y'all may not. So the doctrine is that you have some of our brothers and sisters who they only subscribe to the Old Testament only. So they're non-messianic when it comes to Yahweh Shai, or who they may call Idol Shai, or call him JC, short for Jesus Christ. So basically what they will say is that King David is the Messiah, or that's who those scriptures that are in the Old Testament are talking about when it prophesies about the seed that will be leading the Israelites into the kingdom. And what we're going to do through the Spirit is go throughout the Old Testament mostly. I think I'll probably go into 2 New Testament scriptures, but I want to try to stick mainly to the Old Testament, because you got to be, looking at this thing from the lens of an OT only or non-messianic would, which is they don't subscribe to the New Testament. So you have to prove in the Old Testament that King David is not the one that could possibly sit on the throne. And, all praise to the Most High for his Spirit being with me to allow me to put this lesson together. And hopefully we'll all be edified, because, when we're teaching, we're not only teaching to whoever watching, we also teaching ourselves and sharpening up our sword to help us to continue to get more fervent in this thing. But Ak, you got anything you want to say or bring out?
Yeah, Khan, just just the normal. All praises to the Most High in the name of His Son. Shalom, family. Hope everybody is well. Just make sure to like the video, comment, and also share. And then if you're able to, use the highlight feature so that you could ping all of your friends into the video so that they can receive the edification from this lesson. But outside of that, I'll pass it back to you.
Khan, the Water King, all praises. So we're gonna start with Ezekiel 34, and let's get verses 23 and 24. Let's start with 23 and 24.
Khan. Can you call it one more time?
Ezekiel 34, verses 23 and 24.
Khan. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 34, starting at verse 23. And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. And I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David a prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken it.
Khan. So, looking at verse 23, you can scroll back up just a little bit.
Khan.
And I'll take this off the screen too. Salakia, y'all. Let me pull this off the screen so y'all can see. So it says, and I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. So remember, it says, serve my servant David. And so when you look at this, naturally, it's talking about David. That's, the logical conclusion is this is talking about David because it says his name. So it says, verse 24, and I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David, a prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken it. So when you read this, you're reading with just the understanding of what you see. But what we're going to do is we're going to continue to get more scriptures to analyze what this text is saying. But what we're going to do first is continue in this context. Brother, read verses 25 to 28.
This is Ezekiel chapter 34, starting at verse 25. And I will make with them a covenant of peace, and will cause the evil beast to cease out of the land. And they shall dwell safely in the wilderness, and sleep in the woods. And I will make them in the places round about my hill a blessing. And I will cause the shower to come down in his season, and there shall be showers of blessing. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield her increase, and they shall be safe in their land, and shall know that I am the Lord, when I have broken the bands of their yoke, and delivered them out of the hand of those that serve themselves with them. And they shall no more be a prey to the heathen, neither shall the beasts of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid.
Con. So the only reason we're reading these scriptures is just to show that this is kingdom connotation. So it says, and I will make with them a covenant of peace, and I will cause the evil beast, which we know, as we've covered in the past, that these beasts would be men, wicked men that would come against. So it says to cease out of the land, and they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods. And I will make them in the places round about my hill a blessing, and I will cause the shower to come down in its season. There shall be showers of blessing. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield her increase, and they shall be safe in their land, and shall know that I am the Lord, when I have broken the bands of their yoke, and delivered them out of the hand of those that serve themselves of them. And they shall no more be a prey to the heathen, neither shall the beast of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid. We know when we dwell safely, that's when we're in the land, when we're put back in our land. We don't have to worry about serving nobody, being in captivity no more. So this is definitely talking about kingdom connotation. We're going to continue going. Brother, grab Ezekiel 37, verse 24 and 25.
Okay. 37, and what verses?
24 and 25.
Okay. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, starting at verse 24. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they, and their children, and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever.
Con. So we're going to use the same logic, y'all. Again, it says, in David, my servant. So non-messianic looks at this and say, yes, that's talking about David. We're going to continue reading. It says, and he shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. So they're saying David is that one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob, my servant. Are we just talking about Jacob, y'all? Because it's using the same verbiage as David, my servant, Jacob, my servant. So are we just talking about our forefather Jacob? No, nobody would say that. Not even a non-messianic. They would say, no, that's talking about Jacob. That's talking about the southern kingdom of Israelites. So it says, and they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob, my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children, and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. So we're about to break this thing all the way down where we can see plain and clear that this is not talking about that one David that ruled as a king once upon a time of Israel. Brother, give me Isaiah 41:8.
God. God, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 41 and verse 8. But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend.
Con. So we see the same verbiage. But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen. This is talking about the northern and the southern kingdom, the seed of Abraham, my friend. So that verbiage of being David being my servant, and it's talking about him being the shepherd over the flock that will be in the kingdom. We can't just say that that's going to definitely distinguish and show for sure that it's talking about that one man David that was here before. Brother, give me Jeremiah 30:10.
God. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30 and verse 10. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith Yahweh, neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid.
Same logic. This ain't talking about one man named Jacob. It says, therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord. Neither be dismayed, O Israel. It's not just talking about one man, Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. Same connotation we were speaking of earlier, this kingdom connotation. Speaking of Israel and Judah, northern and southern kingdom. Brother, give me Jeremiah 46:27.
God. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 46 and verse 27. But fear not thou, O my servant Jacob, and be not dismayed, O Israel. For behold, I will save thee from afar off, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and be in rest and at ease, and none shall make him afraid.
Con. But fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, and be not dismayed, O Israel. Same verbiage, my servant Jacob. For behold, I will save thee from afar off, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and be in rest and at ease, and none shall make him afraid. Now, I want to grab some scriptures that's pretty much going to show that even King David knew that it wasn't talking about him when it was talking about this future tense about the rulership seat. Brother, give me 2 Samuel chapter 7, 12, verse 12 and 13.
Okay. You said chapter 12, starting at what verse?
Chapter 7, starting at verse 12 and 13.
It's the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 7, starting at verse 12. It says, and when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever.
Con. So this is David being talked to, y'all. And this is Nathan who is talking to him, the prophet Nathan. It says, and when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. So this kingdom that we're speaking of, that's going to last forever, it's plainly not David going to be ruling on the throne, because he just received the message from a prophet what was going to happen after the days that he was done being on the rulership seat. So point blank, if David knows this himself, who is it? So most non-messianics would say, well, it's talking about Solomon. We're going to show that ain't even true. So, it seems like more than anything, as we get deeper into this doctrine, is that they'll do and say anything just so it's not Yahushua, or who they call JC or Idol Shai. They'll do whatever or say whatever just to make sure it's not him. So, brother, give me verse 14 through 16 in this same chapter.
Con. This is 2 Samuel chapter 7, starting at verse 14. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. And thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever.
Con. So this kingdom is forever. The throne's going to be established forever. So verse 14 says, I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. So he's showing and saying, hey, I took it away from Saul. I took the kingdom away from Saul. This man that I'm setting up to sit in this rulership seat, I'll never take it away from him. I'll never take the kingdom from him. He'll always have the rulership seat forever. So, brother, give me 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 4 through 13, because we're going to read this account about Solomon to see, is it going to be Solomon?
1 Kings chapter 11, and what was the verse?
Verses 4 through 13.
Con. This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 11, starting at verse 4. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with Yahweh his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after Yahweh, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And Yahweh was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from Yahweh God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he kept not that which Yahweh had commanded, Salakia. Verse 11. Wherefore Yahweh said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen.
The water for the reading. Beautiful reading. And shalom to everybody in the chat that just got here. The water for joining us. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit a like and also share, and also comment. Let us know you're joining us. But so looking at verse 11, I mean, we know, family, we know already that King Solomon he committed these different, not committed, but he had plenty of different wives and concubines. And then he started to get into idolatry. He started to let these wives and these concubines turn his heart away from the Most High God. And so he started to go off. Most High wasn't pleased with him. So verse 11 says, wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee and will give it to thy servant. We just got to reading that he was never going to take the kingdom away from this Messiah that he was going to raise up to lead the 12 tribes of Israel. So this disqualifies Solomon, just like we've already disqualified David. Nope, running out of options, OT only, non-messianic. So it says, notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. So Yahweh said, I ain't gonna do it right now. I ain't gonna do it while your pop's still alive, because I love David. David did what he was supposed to do. And so while he's still alive and breathing, I'm not gonna take the kingdom from you. I'm gonna wait. And he says, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. And he says, howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son, for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. So basically, he's saying the rulership won't entirely depart from your lineage. I'm going to make sure I preserve it, but I'm going to take this kingdom away from your son. Brother Aaron, give me that article. Pull that article up, because I want everyone to see this history and how history just harmonizes so beautifully with the Bible, and it proves things, and it helps us to have understanding also, because this article goes like perfect with this scripture we just got to read. It helps give some light to it.
So this is Britannica. It says decline of the kingdom. The biblical account of his reign states that Solomon's personal prestige and genius were required to perpetuate the powerful nation he had acquired from his father and then further strengthened. It is suspected that the increase in Israel's wealth was matched by an increase in extravagance, and that the wealth was not diffused to the people. It is also considered possible that Solomon's treatment of the northern tribes showed favoritism to his own tribe of Judah. Solomon's son and successor, Rehoboam, ill-advisedly adopted a harsh policy toward the northern tribes, which succeeded and formed their own kingdom of Israel. This left the descendants of Solomon with the southern kingdom of Judah. Thus, Solomon's empire was lost beyond recall, and even the homeland was split into two often hostile kingdoms.
So y'all see how this prophecy that was spoken of, it came to life, and they have record of it. And we're able to go and grab this record and prove this prophecy that was spoken of about the kingdom of Israel. Brother, you can go back to that passage and let's read that verses 11 through 13 again.
This is the book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, starting at verse 11. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen.
Khan. So we see what happened with David's son. I mean, Solomon's son. The kingdom was taken away from him. They split ways, part ways, and the kingdom was no longer in his possession. So we're gonna continue going forward, brother. Give me Isaiah. Well, if you got something you want to add, you can before we go forward.
Khan, just an initial point you was making earlier about people in the scriptures being called like after prominent ancestors and figures in the scriptures, like you were showing something with Israel my servant, right? But you see all of Israel, and this is a really simple one, but no Tanakh only is going to say to you, hey, this is literally the man Jacob or the man Israel, right? This is Isaiah 14:1. It says, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Now, again, within this first clause, when it mentions Jacob and Israel, these are singular names. These are like literally proper names. You look at the Hebrew there. There's going to be a Yaakov for Jacob, a Yaquab, and then you have Yisrael or Yasha'ala, right? Be Yisrael. So again, that's singular. That's the proper name of these particular individuals. But no Old Testament only is going to be unreasonable and say, oh, that's the actual ancestor. Like, of course not. So it's like we have plenty of situations, as a brother went into, like all throughout the Tanakh, that our ancestor Jacob, he was called the servant of the Most High, but it wasn't in reference to literally Jacob. And it's the same thing with David. You even see that. And matter of fact, I'll show this right here. Oh, did you plan on going to 1 Kings 12 at all?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Con. So I'm gonna pull up 1 Kings 12. I think the point is in verse 16, because building off that article, it goes into the kingdom being divided, right? So verse 16, it says, so when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, and the king right there is Rehoboam, it says, the people answered the king, saying, what portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Now see to thine own house, David. So Israel departed unto their tents. So it's like, it's not explicitly saying, oh, the children of Israel, and these, like, all of these things are being stated as singulars. The proper name, we see David, we see the son of Jesse, but no Old Testament only or Tanakh only, they're not going to be unreasonable and say, oh yeah, that's literally David, or that's literally the son of Jesse, or that's literally the man Israel. No one's going to say that, so it's just like, like just the first step is just kind of showing, that your logic is poor because you don't stay consistent with it or uphold it in anywhere else in the scriptures. You just maintain it with that, and then once I debunk you, you say, well, it's not JC. But I'll pass it back to you.
And see, we laughing, y'all, but we literally have seen this. Well, it's not JC. Well, who is it then? So it's just crazy, man. But yeah, let's go to Isaiah 11:1.
Gone. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 11 and verse 1. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots.
Con. So it says there shall come forth a rod. So we know that a rod or a staff would be something that would signify rulership. So this is talking about rulership. I want you to grab stem in the Hebrew.
Con. So this is the word for stem, 1503, gezah, and stem, trunk, stock of trees. And then it says the trunk or stump of a tree as felled or as planted, stem, stock.
And that's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do figurative. You can go with the figurative meaning.
Okay. And under the Brown Java Briggs, it says figurative stem of Jesse.
So you think about the stock of a tree, or you think about the stock of man. What's the stock of man? That's our lineage. That's our children. They're our stock. So when we read Isaiah 11:1, it says, and there shall come forth a rod. So we know this is some rulership. Someone's going to rule out of the stem of Jesse. Jesse is David's father. And a branch shall grow out of his roots. And so with this lineage, there's going to be a branch that's going to grow from the roots. So we got to find out who this is. We already did a disqualification as far as with Solomon and as far as with David. So who is it? It can't be them. And just like an OT only or non-messianic, well, it ain't JC. But we got to find out who it is. So brother, let's read verses 2-5.
Khan and Salaki, when you go into that word branch, is the Hebrew word netzer, and it actually links up with a descendant, or the figurative meaning of a descendant as well. So just to add on to that point.
Khan, the water king. Good addition.
No, praises. I know in verses 2 on down to 5, you said.
Khan.
This is Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 2. And the spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord, and shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall slay the wicked. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins.
Khan. So this is just going into the qualities of this person. And we know that there's historical proof. That even atheists have written books about the reality of Yahushua actually being here. So there's definitely historically accurate proof that he existed. And so we have documentation about the things he did while he was here. And we don't have any documentation about anyone else doing these type of things. So it says, and the spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of Yahweh, and shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. Brother, drop down to verse 10.
Okay. This is verse 10. It says, and in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious.
Khan, and grab root in the Hebrew, and just grab the second entry in the lexicon.
Khan. This is the word sheresh, which is 8328, and you said in the set for the outline usage.
No, for the lexicon.
Oh, okay, Salaki. Oh yeah, Salaki. Um, so it says, literally root of tree or shrub. You said number 2?
Con.
Okay. It says literally root of tree or shrub. Simile, metaphor of people. Do you
So I got. Let me see. Did you go to the lexicon though?
Yeah, I'm on a lexicon.
I guess I got something different. So I see a shoot which springs from a root, and it gives Isaiah 53:2, and it says, hence metaphor, the shoot of Jesse, Isaiah 11:10 of the Messiah. And it says there is no need to depart from the usual meaning, root. On the other hand, root by a metaphor taken from plants and applied to a people is meant. So we know that this is talking about the Messiah just from reading the lexicon, and basically it's showing that this root of Jesse was going to be still in the earth. And so we have to find somebody to apply this to, if the ones who most people try to apply it to, it just don't fit. Brother, give me Acts 13, verse 22 and 23.
God, Slack, and I was on the wrong lexicon. That's why I wasn't popping up.
Con. I was wondering what was going on. I'm like, dang, I got something different.
God, this it's in the book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 22. And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found David the son of Jesse, a man after mine own heart, which shall fulfill all my will. Of this man's seed hath God, according to his promise, raised unto Israel a savior, Yahushua.
Now verse 22, this time, y'all, it is talking about the David that was the king. It's talking about him this time. And we know by context, we don't have to do too much to figure it out, because it's talking about the lineage, and it shows that Yahushua came later on down the line in the lineage. And so, most OT onlys or non-messianic be like, well, you went to Acts, that book, blah, blah, blah. They'll argue the New Testament ain't real or whatever. But you can't find nothing else that speaks to the verbiage, the language we just read in Isaiah 11 and in the other scriptures that give future connotation about the Messiah. These are the only documents that we have that are in the New Testament that speak of someone actually fulfilling these things while on earth. Brother, give me Psalm 72, verses 1 through 7. And that's the crazy thing is people will try to pit the so-called New Testament and Old Testament against each other, which there was no separation anyway when they were written, but they try to pit them against each other. And I believe most of it is due to not being able to make it harmonized correctly, having a problem making it harmonized. So they'll think that it's contradictory, so they throw out the New Testament writings. Mostly they do that with Paul. When they can't understand Paul, they just don't want to deal with Paul because they think Paul is against the Old Testament. But it comes with understanding the text through the Spirit, to be able to make these things harmonized, because they do go together. They don't fight against each other. But yeah, brother, give me verses 1 through 7. And if you want to add something, you can before you read it.
Nothing to add thus far. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 72, starting at verse 1. Give the king thy judgments, O God, and thy righteousness unto the king's son. He shall judge thy people with righteousness, and thy poor with judgment. The mountains shall bring peace to the people, and the little hills by righteousness. He shall judge the poor of the people. He shall save the children of the needy, and shall break in pieces the oppressor. They shall fear thee as long as the sun and moon endure throughout all generations. He shall come down like rain upon the mound grass, as showers that water the earth. In his days shall the righteous flourish, in abundance of peace, so long as the moon endureth.
Con. So verse 7 says, in his days shall the righteous flourish, in abundance of peace, so long as the moon endureth. So we know that King David had the rulership seat. Solomon had the rulership seat. Yahushua, when he was here, what did he say? He didn't have the rulership seat at all when he was here. He turned it down because he said, my rulership is not of this world. My kingdom is not of this world. He knew that his kingdom was in the new kingdom, the real kingdom. So he never tried to take up a seat while he was here on earth and take an earthly kingdom seat. If he would have, then this prophecy couldn't even been true about him, because it said that in his days shall the righteous flourish in abundance of peace, so long as the moon endure. So this rulership that this person would have, verse 4 says, he shall judge the poor of the people, he shall save the children of the needy, and shall break in pieces the oppressor. He wouldn't have been able to do that while he was here on earth, because he had to die for our sins. But when he is when we are walking into the kingdom and he comes back onto the earth, this will be done. But brother, give me Matthew 12:42.
Come. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 12, verse 42. The queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it. For she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And behold, a greater than Solomon is here.
Con. This is speaking to that rulership. This is speaking to also that lineage of David. A greater than Solomon is here, because he comes from the same stock that Solomon came from. He's from the house of David. So when we look at it from this perspective, you can't say that, this couldn't possibly be the person that we've been reading about, because he comes from the same stock. And he did those things that we just read about in not Psalm 72, that we read about in Isaiah 11. But brother, give me Isaiah 9 and 7.
Come. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, and verse 7. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this.
Con. And it's just going to show again that this person, whoever is talking about, couldn't have never had a rulership seat while they were on earth, or they wouldn't qualify. It says, of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. Brother, give me Jeremiah 23, verses 5 through 8.
5 through 8, correct?
Con.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, starting at verse 5. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and the king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely, and this is his name whereby he shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land.
That crazy doctrine fall right on his head, right on his face in verse 5. It says, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will raise unto David, so he's raising unto David, a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper. What king? Is it David? And shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. In David's days, this didn't happen. In Solomon's days, this did not happen. It says, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. And we know this north country is talking about where we are located now, right here in so-called North America. Brother, give me Jeremiah 33 and verses 15 through 17.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 33, starting at verse 15. In those days and at that time, I will cause the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David, and he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days shall Judah be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely. And this is the name wherewith shall she be called, the Lord our righteousness. For thus saith the Lord, David shall never want a man to sit upon the throne of the house of Israel.
Come. So verse 17 says, for thus saith the Lord, David shall never want a man to sit upon the throne of the house of Israel. So basically, during this time, the house of Israel will not lack a leader, period. He's going to reign forever, period. So, and what Sister Wendy said, she said the kingdom didn't split until after Solomon, right? Right, with his son. She said, so it couldn't be talking about anyone before the kingdom split. Yeah, it's just not, it's not practical. It's no way in no logical way, shape, or form that it could have been anyone before that, because those kingdoms ended. And it said that this kingdom would never end. The water, Sister Wendy. And Ak, you got anything you want to add?
I had a point on that Psalms point, but just I've been thinking about this in Jeremiah, right? So this is Jeremiah chapter 8, and I'm gonna start at verse 1. It says, at that time, saith the Lord, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah, and the bones of his princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their graves, and they shall spread them before the sun. And now I'm gonna pause real quick, right? Because it mentioned the kings of Judah, and this would encompass the kings, which had bodies that were buried in this particular region, which would be Judah, right, and Jerusalem, that area. So this is not going to be anybody else that's outside of that area. But we know there's one person chiefly that's among these kings. It's King David, because David, he died in the land of Judah, right? So continuing on, verse 2, it says, and they shall spread them before the sun and the moon and all the host of heaven, whom they have loved and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped, and they shall not be gathered, nor be buried, and they shall be for dung upon the face of the earth. So when you continue to read down, it's speaking to the fact about how these kings, they all of their bones, they've been buried in X, Y, and Z, right? But biggest point is that we read a very important prophecy. Let me pull this up in Psalms. Pull it up in Psalms, right? Because something that we even see within the New Testament that's attributed to the Messiah is, you won't cause my body to corrupt in hell, right? Now we see that David's bones, they had already been corrupted by this particular time. Let me pull this up. Let's see. Oh yeah, let me make sure I share my screen before I read all of this.
Something else up?
Yeah, I'm on a different I'm on a different page.
Con.
Let me see. Try to pull this up. So this is the book of Psalm, chapter 16 and verse 10. Matter of fact, I'll start at verse 1 so we can see that this is David, right? It says, "Preserve me, O God, for in thee do I put my trust." So this is in reference to King David, right? Well, let's jump down to verse 10. It says, "For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption." Now, when we read in Jeremiah 8, that's referring to the kings which were buried in Judah, which would include David. Their bones had already been buried, right? So they've decayed by this particular time. Now let's look at this particular word for, well, you look at hell, it's the word Sha'ul, which is the grave, right? When you continue to look down, if you look at the word corruption, which is Shechat, Strong's H7845, means to corrupt, destruction. And then you look at some precise lexicons, like the ancient Hebrew lexicon, it says to be destroyed or to decay, right? So you look at this word in literal form, it means to basically be destroyed or to decay. So in this particular psalm, King David, he's talking about how the Most High wouldn't allow his body to see corruption, right? But David, he obviously has bones. By the time of Jeremiah, he's been buried, and he gets buried with his fathers, and his body obviously decays just like everybody else. But as we read in the narrative within the New Testament, and the brother was going into it, I think last time, going into the Messiah's resurrection, the Messiah, his body, it didn't decay. Like, his body wasn't even there when they came back to check for it, right? So, just a quick point. And a lot of times, you have different Tanakh onlys that are a little bit more, sophisticated. So they'll have a way to try to answer around this. But honestly speaking, if you look at definitions, you look at just what happens to the human body, and you just look at what history says about what happened to David, they won't be able to get around this. So this is just another point, dealing with, how David, he spoke prophetically on how, the Most High, he wouldn't have, his body see corruption. But obviously this isn't, in reference to David literally, but this has to be speaking to someone out of his loins, right? But I'll pass it back to you.
Khan, the Water King, good point. Give me Jeremiah 17, verse 25. And we real close to the end of this thing. I got a couple scriptures after this.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 25. "Then shall there enter into the gates of this city kings and princes sitting upon the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, they and their princes, the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and this city shall remain forever."
I say this one for last because this putting a nail in the coffin. So if they're going to say that the Messiah is supposed to be David, he's the one supposed to sit on the throne, nobody else. It ain't JC. It ain't Idol Shy, whatever they want to call him. They can't explain why Jeremiah 17:25 says, then shall there enter into the gates of this city kings and princes sitting upon the throne of David. Hold on. That's plural. So there are many brothers sitting on the throne of David, not just Yahushua, riding in chariots and on horses. They and their princes, the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem and this city shall remain forever. Now, this could be the 24 elders. This could be the 144,000 that rule. But we know for sure this is just talking about many people sitting on the throne or the rulership seat. So that kills that doctrine completely. So what I want to do now is grab a couple of scriptures to just because these scriptures also highlight a question that they would have to answer if they're gonna hold to being OT only, or saying that David is the coming Messiah or Solomon is the coming Messiah. They have to explain this. Brother, give me Isaiah 28 verses 9 through 16.
Come on. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 28, starting at verse 9. Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. Here a little, and there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people, to whom he said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. But the word of the Most High was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. Here a little, and there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. And you said down to 16, correct? Verse 14. Wherefore, hear the word of Yahweh, ye scornful men, that they rule, Salakia, that rule this people which is in Jerusalem, because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste.
Con. So looking at these verses, starting at verse 9, understanding that we can't understand the scriptures unless we go precept upon precept, line upon line. It helps us to understand and draw the connections, piece this thing together so that we're not basically guessing and we're not assuming anything. Because if these scriptures harmonize, you can only come to one logical conclusion when you're finished. So it says, whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. So it's talking about the simple things. You got the simple things down pat. And now you're going into deeper things. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people, to whom he said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing. Yet they would not hear. So it's something that our people will not hear. And it's just not, it's going to be a lot of people that's not going to hear or not understand. But the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. So the proof is here. He gave it to us for us to be able to break it down, just like this lesson we just went into to prove the point. The information's there, but some people are gonna they're gonna go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. They still not gonna get it. They're not gonna go precept upon precept, line upon line. It says, "Wherefore hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men that rule this people which is in Jerusalem, because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us. For we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves." So this covenant with death that is speaking of that they're making, that they made, is when you look at how and why the Messiah came, it was to help save us from our sins, to save us from ourselves, because we commit or have committed sins that would condemn us, and there'd be no way that we could get out of it. So once you commit that sin that says you're supposed to die, you make a covenant with death. And if you don't accept the Messiah, you can't break that covenant of death. So this is the outcome, and this is what the Most High God was speaking of through the prophet Isaiah. And so verse 16 says, "Therefore, for thus saith Yahweh, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste." So this was a stumbling block that was placed. This stone was a stumbling block. And if you didn't believe on it, it would cause you to stumble. It would cause you to not be able to get out of this contract or this covenant with death. So the question you would have to ask someone that holds to this belief is, who is this stone? Can't be David. It can't be David. Period. Brother, give me Psalm 118, verse 22 and 23.
Con. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 118, starting at verse 22. "The stone which the builders refused is become the headstone of the corner. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes."
Nobody rejected David. Nobody rejected Solomon. But the reason we doing this lesson right now is because people are still rejecting Yahweh. So who is this stone which the builders rejected? It's got to be Yahweh. With that, you want to add anything?
Con, just to add on, definitely beautiful point and beautiful lesson as a whole. Yeah, this is 2 Corinthians 3. I'll start at 14, and this is habitually abused by people that try to teach antinomianism and lawlessness, but this is actually a beautiful text. 2 Corinthians 3 and 14 in the NET. It says, "But their minds were closed, for to this very day the same veil remains when they hear the old covenant read. It has not been removed, because only Mashiach, or Yahushua, is taken away." Verse 15. "But until this very day, whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their minds. But when one turns to the Lord, the veil is removed." Right? So, again, like it's, a lot of people that take hold to, David being the Messiah. It's just a veil that's over their eyes whenever they're reading the scriptures. But, it takes, something divine and supernatural for them to come out of that blindness, because a lot of times us brothers, we can break all of these things down until we're blue in the face, but they'll like literally, as I was going into earlier, they'll be confounded on every point, but they'll just say it's not JC. So it's literally that that example of cognitive dissonance, right? Like, you knowing that your logic is faulty, you knowing that what this person is saying is sound, but you just can't accept it. That's a stronghold that's on you. But when the Most High, turns your mind and removes that blindness from you, it's a beautiful thing. And we even have, examples in our community. It's a brother named Zion Lex. He was pretty prominent in the Tanakh only community. The brother's a beast in the Hebrew, right? But I think maybe 5-6 months ago, he started believing in the Messiah. He became messianic and believed that Yahushua of Nazareth, or Jesus of Nazareth, as some people call him, was the Messiah, and that he came in the flesh. That was only the Most High's doing, right? Only the Most High could do that, because that brother, he had battled, some of the mightiest brothers in our community, right? But again, just definitely a beautiful lesson from the brother. Like always, definitely very edifying, and I enjoyed it, man. But you got anything else?
I thought the Water King. I'll just say just the water to everybody tuned in. If you're watching on the replay, we ask you to like, share, comment, and join us again next time. And we do these lessons every Tuesday and Thursday. If you're tuned in and you're not used to tuning in, every Tuesday, Thursday nights at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, and trying to get another night going. And it may be Sunday, maybe Saturday, but let the Most High do his thing with that. But all praise to the Most High, man. All praise.
Con. Well, with that, I'll close it out with Numbers 6:24 on down. Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. Yahweh make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. And with that, I'll say shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
It ain't for everybody. 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 Yeah, many are called, but few get chosen. Matthew 22:14. My righteousness gonna exceed that of the Pharisees.